The internet in its early days was a brand new frontier. It was more accessible than outer space and a lot less dangerous, or at least, so we thought. I remember when I was a kid in elementary school, middle school, maybe a little high school as well, where we had to actually learn how to use Internet Explorer. It was not intuitive. It was a new thing. We did not know how to do it. That was it. Hell, it wasn't even something that everybody had access to at the time. Remember, we're talking about the early 2000s here. The internet and computers in general were still just kind of that new. It was truly an uncanny time. Club Penguin, MySpace, Ask Jeeves, the places that we hung out in the early internet were unlike anything we had ever known before. And frankly, unlike anything we have now, especially in this world of social media. You'd think there would be something similar, and yet not quite. There was an air of safety as well as an air of mystery, despite there being so much of neither. Eventually, the popularity, the convenience, and the potential of the internet gripped the public consciousness in a way that nothing had ever before, with an unrelenting vice. And frankly, it's one that it has not let go of to this day. And once we were able to make money on the internet, oh, you better back the fuck up. It was over. It was 100% completely over. Happy days, my name is Daisy Mays, and welcome to a brand new series on my channel that I am calling Daisy Chains. This is going to be a series where I basically put all of the video essays I've had ideas for years now into one place. We're going to talk about things that are important to me, things that are important to other people, things that crossed my mind, and things that I've been thinking about for years. All while I sit here and finish my makeup to the best of my ability. You may not like how it comes out, but that's okay. It's not really for you. The gimmick of Daisy Chains is going to be about connection, so at least one word in the title of each episode is going to have to be the same as one word in the title of the next episode. That way we form this never-ending train of consciousness and thought. Do I think it'll be good? That's not really what I'm here for. I got other things worth thinking about, such as today's topic. RAGEBAIT is destroying the digital world. I know that sounds like some Code Lyoko shit, but I certainly have a point. Code Lyoko. I still like referring to the internet as the World Wide Web, but I bet it's been a while since you've heard it referred to as such. It's not exactly the term we go to anymore. Now it's the internet, it's social media, it's whatever it happens to be that day. Or that minute. It may seem like it's just a nickname, but actually the term World Wide Web, the www, the dot that you see at the beginning of every website, back when you paid attention to websites, it was actually coined by an English computer scientist named Tim Berners-Lee, all the way back in 1989. September 1st, 1989. Dear Diary, bum bunum, and that was how things started for Tim Berners-Lee. Or should I say Dr. Veronica Sawyer. Now, the World Wide Web basically referred to his invention of the internet as we know it. It was originally designed as a universal link information system, using browsers to access web pages via hyperlinks. At least that's the best I can understand it from some cursory Wikipedia searching. I don't know, I'm not a scientist, certainly not computer or otherwise. I'm just some crossy. The web's early days of being available to the public as a means of sharing information inevitably led it to become something entirely different. It became a social hub for connecting with other people and ultimately wasting a lot of time. And honestly, I don't hate that. Maybe I'm biased because I grew up in the delightful throes of Club Penguin and Wizard 101 and Tumblr and DeviantArt, but I loved the internet as an extension of the socializing that I was already doing at school. Frankly, in the same way as well, on the edges of things, and without anybody really paying any attention. I was not cool, I was not loud, yet. I was just weird. That part hasn't changed, but now I've gotten louder and, in my opinion, cooler. But then again, take a look at me. Take it with a grain of salt. And the internet was one of the few places at the time of the day where the cool kids hadn't unlocked its potential yet, so it was a place where all of us weirdos could kind of hang out and find one another. This would change with the introductions of the sites MySpace and YouTube in 2003 and 2006, respectively. Those two sites really revolutionized the game, and the internet would never be the same afterwards. While sites like Tumblr and 4chan would eventually lead us to discover just what kind of a cesspit this place could be, these first two websites, MySpace and YouTube, are basically what put it on everybody else's radar. MySpace introduced the potential to become famous through popularity on the internet and subcultures like emo and scene. Meanwhile, YouTube was basically personalized TV that you didn't have to pay for, and you got to decide which channels you paid attention to. Pranks, vlogs, tutorials, and far more all dominated that space as some of the key figures that would remain within the internet's zeitgeist emerged for the first time. Some of whom we still love and still loathe to this very day. And once YouTube introduced features to monetize content and it became an actual job you could reap income from, it was basically a space race. The race was on who was going to win. Many people, in fact. I mean, everybody basically instantly realized what this meant. You could now curry favor to the degree of like a celebrity or a movie star just by being relatable or funny or entertaining from the comfort of your own home. At the time, this was unheard of. Now, with additional sites like Instagram and Vine entering the playing field and eventually calcifying the content creator, social media influencer role, we inevitably experienced an explosion in variety of content. Now, YouTube obviously remained the main superpower here, as people like Shane Dawson and Jenna Marbles completely dominated, but other sites such as Twitch were eventually introducing brand new ways not only to engage with an audience, but create content that was more catered to an individual's tastes. This was how influencers, though they really weren't called that at the time, spread their nets even wider. Get it, nets? Because internet? Okay. Additional sites like Patreon and Substack introduced even more newer ways to monetize your content. And this all happened over a, comparatively short time. Now, if you were engaging and consistent enough and you had an angle and a story that was interesting enough, you had as much potential as any of the greats to be the next Fred Figglehorn, or whatever. Makeup, tutorials, vlogs, video games, pranks, drag, music, dancing. Anything that could be filmed and shared was now a potential source of income. Even real-world companies were beginning to realize that if they wanted to stay on top of things, they had to at least acknowledge that content creators were some sort of pivotal force. Not even pivotal, just they were players in the game. They couldn't be ignored anymore. And as more people got desperate for fame and fortune, that means they were hatching new schemes and plotting new ploys to engage anything. They wanted to monetize anything that they could possibly create or control, including but not limited to people's feelings and perceptions. In everybody's desperation to become or remain relevant, ethics basically went out the window pretty quickly. And with the rise of reality TV having basically just culminated, right in time for the internet to follow suit, it was only a matter of time before things got pretty toxic. I mean, it's really only natural that people would start fixating on, focusing on, and monetizing drama. And with the rise of sites like Twitter, now X, God help us all, and TikTok especially, there was basically no better time to try. In fact, the introduction of these new apps and sites basically gave a new platform for the worst of the internet that was formerly, kind of reserved for Reddit and 4chan and some of the other deeper, darker places. And with the intensifying feelings over politics and religion and identity and all sorts of these personal, individualistic identity politics, there was no better time to really harvest these emotions for monetary gain. Rogue agents really started not only creating, but exponentially expanding the reach of some really problematic and intentionally polarizing posts, ideas, theories, conspiracies, to the point where after a while it was very easy to get people upset without even the slightest shred of proof. That, plus the literary crisis and general problem with the American education system and how influential American politics and pop culture is to the rest of the world, it was only a matter of time before it became a global epidemic. I mean, for a while now, people haven't been customers like they once were. They were now consumers, and that extended to the online sphere. The digital world had been at war for a long time, and now we were starting to see the aftermath of what awaited us at the other end of all the nukes. Corporate and personal greed mixed with shortening attention spans and intensified political situations only led to this being much easier and more effective to do en masse. And even though a lot of us were starting to wake up and the same kind of distraction techniques weren't always working as effectively against us, for every one person who achieved that sort of nirvana, there were at least 7 others who could be easily controlled and manipulated, duped by the simplest of ploys. And unfortunately, even waking up to that degree wasn't enough for most of us to be able to avoid our baser animalistic instincts of greed and reactivity. Naturally, when people saw the hard evidence that it was easy to get everybody to be on your side if you gave them something to hate, which could now be done far more effectively than it ever had before, it was only a matter of time before the natural progression led us to where we're at now, the oversaturation of rage bait in the digital world. You know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the posts that probably didn't actually happen, but just exist to garner sympathy and anger and whip you up into a frenzied state so that you'll go do whatever the person posting it asks you to do without doing any research of your own. Why would you? You can trust this person, right? There's somebody who has already appealed to your interests, to your political stance, to your religious beliefs, to the fact that you're both left-handed. And with the rise of AI and the essentially all but proven true dead internet theory, suggesting that the whole internet is mostly just populated by bots and shit, it has become easier than ever to spread this kind of rage bait at an astronomical rate. Meanwhile, many newer and even legacy content creators who have genuinely inspiring and interesting points of view and art to share have been squashed by algorithms that were kind of designed to do exactly that. Maybe an artist with a dynamic and unique style, maybe a filmmaker who's taking a new approach to old classics, maybe a drag performer who happens to like doing most of their shows in their bedroom and has a clowny, offbeat sense of humor. Just examples, of course, just kind of pulling stuff out of thin air, The list of transgressions goes on. The list of incidents goes on. And whether people want to admit it or not, the internet has a very real and concrete effect on the minds and hearts of people who actually are likely to go out and make change, for better or for worse. Not to mention the fact that while we were all focused on how racist Chud the Builder is, or whether or not Patagonia is going to win her lawsuit, the political leaders and billionaires who actively have the power to make our lives worse are doing so, while we are all pleasantly distracted by, once again, the identity politics and the smaller things, the things that we feel we can make a change in, so we don't try to make a change in the bigger ones. And while we're distracted, they're killing the planet, and AI is spreading and getting even bigger, and our futures are looking more and more bleak. Rage bait has very real consequences, and we're watching them play out in real time. It is destroying the digital world, and by extension, it is preventing us from identifying correctly what is actually destroying our real world. But it's also preventing us from seeing what we can do about it. After all, in our pocket at all times, I'm currently filming on it, we have this mythological codex full of several thousand libraries of Alexandria that haven't been burned down yet and maybe never will. Sure, we use it to watch TikToks and cat videos, but it's also an incredible tool, a magic wand of the 21st century. This insurmountable power to confuse and control and manipulate is being used against us, but because of these wonderful little tools we have on our persons at all times, we actually have the ability to turn that power right back on the oppressors using it against us. The most effective thing we can do for a start is in regards to any direct rage bait once we learn how to identify it. Rage bait only works if you engage with it. So the best bet is to just stop engaging with it. I know, easier said than done, but we gotta start somewhere, right? We're never gonna convince people not to make rage bait. It's too useful, it makes too much money. But we can, bit by bit, prove to them that it doesn't work as well as they think it does. Not nearly as well as actually listening to us will, but, that's kind of a different fight for a different day. Another great way for us to combat it is to do the exact opposite. Algorithms work both ways, remember. If you engage with rage bait, more rage bait is going to get more attention. But If you take the time to leave likes and comments and share things that genuinely mean something to you, such as the YouTube videos of a certain plant-based cartoon clown that maybe has some interesting things to say and maybe wants to, make a bunch of people laugh in these trying times. I don't know, just an example, throwing that out there. By training your algorithms not just to focus on things that you like or people that agree with you, but to focus on things that genuinely inspire you, that you're able to look past the bullshit of and find the things that genuinely mean something to you, you can train your algorithm to get rid of rage bait altogether. It's obviously not going to work easily, and it's not going to work quickly, and some people won't try at all because they like the rage bait. They like being mad, and they like what being mad does for them. After all, who even knew the name Chud the Builder until he started dropping slurs like they were, hard candies or something? God, I sound very old. I have made a habit of actively liking and commenting on things that give me hope, that inspire me, and that I can tell aren't just trying to manipulate me. And you can pretty easily tell what is trying to manipulate you. Is there a radical claim or such an over-the-top thing that's just trying to sensationalize something? Once you get past the sensationalizing of it, do you still feel drawn to that content? Is it still doing something for you? If the answer is no, then you probably need to unfollow, maybe block, and move on. But is there something that genuinely makes you happy? Is there something that genuinely gets you involved, gets you excited, and makes you want to engage with the content? Good. That is not only going to make your life better, it's going to be a strike against rage bait in all of its forms. However, it also means you have to turn a critical gaze onto the things that do make you happy. For example, I love Trixie and Katya compilations. However, I've been seeing a great rise in the number of Trixie and Katya compilations that were clearly just AI stitched together, poorly edited, and from channels that don't normally do Trixie and Katya content. You have to pay attention to these things, or else the same kind of slop is going to be pumped throughout the internet. So once you see the man behind the curtain, is it somebody you still want to support? If the answer is yes, then go for it. And if the answer is no, congratulations. You've already beaten rage bait at its own game. For example, here are a few online creators that really inspire me and make me want to do more stuff. On YouTube, there are creators like Funky Frog Bait, Tiffany Ferg, Rachel Maxey, and Bernadette Banner. I love Max McCurley art on Instagram. They do these incredible mask clown looks, and I just, as somebody who loves costumes and clowns, and a lot of the older theatrical methods, I really, really love to engage with them. There's a puppet named Scruff on TikTok that I love very much. We have talked on more than one occasion, and they make wonderful puppets. And there are so many other incredible performers, artists, entertainers, personalities out there that aren't trying to manipulate you and are just kind of vibing. Those are people worth supporting. I mean, the thesis basically comes down to if anybody is trying anything by any means necessary to get your attention, then there's a good chance that they don't really have something that's worth your attention to begin with. If they need to reduce themselves to not just rage bait, but joy baiting, where they're just trying to throw a bunch of happy things at you, but don't actually stand behind any happy things in reality, then they're probably not worth your time, and they're probably contributing to the problem. We need to start leading the charge, not just by speaking our minds or voting with our dollar, but also by utilizing our attention. It's the most precious resource we have besides time. And it's one of the only ones that we can control directly. So, control your fucking self. And stop being so goddamn angry on the internet. It's not worth it. Thank you for watching this first episode of Daisy Chains. Let me know what you'd like to hear about next, although I do have a long list, but I'd love to add it on there somewhere. As always, my name is Daisy Mays, and I am wishing you all some very happy days.